With every new Madden NFL release, there's always two things you can expect. Upgrades that EA Sports hope are well received, and the inevitable disappointment amongst the fan base when what they wanted addressed wasn't. With Madden 21, the game signifies the end of an era, as it's the last one released primarily for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 consoles. But does it go out with an emphatic roar of success, or a whimper in defeat?
Throw is Mahomes. He'll buy some time right. And going deep for Hill. This is caught by Hill for a Chiefs touchdown.
For nearly a decade now, there's been nothing more divisive among Madden players than the series' gameplay. Some enjoy it, while others just simply can't stand it. With Madden 21, it's once again a mixed bag of results on the field. Passing the ball has been a breath of fresh air in Madden 21, mainly for the fact that it once again is a viable option to move the ball because of how much the run game has been toned down. Now, in regards to the passing itself, I've noticed you're allowed to get rid of the ball as a defender barrels down on you much later than in previous Maddens, where you could fully complete the throwing motion and still get sacked. But this, and a lot of other less deserved passes, are still hampered by the dreaded pressure and accuracy penalty that sails your short and medium throws nowhere near your target, completely ruining the exact recipe needed for defeating pressure defenses, the quick pass game. The ability to throw late is highlighted even more by the fact you're allowed to throw your way out of sacks way too often, even though they don't offer much benefit to the offenses, as passes a good portion of the time float right to the defender, when it would have been better in the situation if Aaron Donald or someone just sacked you. When you are given time to set your feet and make a perfect throw, you're able to see the improvements to the passing game. The running back screen game and receiver screens aren't completely useless anymore either. The increased responsiveness of the receiver has made that aspect of offense a more viable option, especially with opponents now having the ability to adjust the depth of zone defenders. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, being able to adjust zone drops has been a huge addition that can hopefully limit certain money plays Madden players like to run and allow the more defensive-minded players to shine. That said, zone defense as a whole has been terrible, especially if your defender lacks a coverage ability. These problems are aided greatly by the fact that quarterbacks can sit in the pocket for 5-6 seconds to find his receiver wide open in the middle of the coverage, thus making man defense the coverage of choice early on to at least guarantee your man is in the area to defend. Great route runners are the best way to beat man defense, but getting turnovers on any consistent basis with the huge nerf to user defense is only made possible in man coverage so far. Now, the biggest relief I've had in Madden 20 so far was the nerf to the running game. Now, don't get me wrong, you'll still allow 20+ yard gains if you're in the wrong defense, but mindlessly running dive and stretch every play with no regards to the defense is long gone. It's definitely gotten way more difficult to have a consistent run game, and more of a skill gap is there with Madden 21. The defenders getting into the backfield way more often, especially those with run stuffing abilities, along with the improved pursuit angles by defenders, require runners to be a lot more patient in letting blocks develop and finding the right holes to spring to daylight. So back during the beta of the game, the most heated topic was the nerf to the user's ability to play the pass, and it'll continue to be one unless a patch comes out. The feeling of being in quicksand and having an interception radius smaller than the one we have to tackle ball carriers is frustrating and limiting. While I'm not in favor of letting users cover a drag, then zip back and pick off a post route in 2 seconds, the amount of more simpler route combos that you simply aren't able to cover even when you try to bait your opponent is infuriating. There has to be a balance between not allowing superhuman user linebackers and still punishing those who make ill-advised throws. And if usering is going to remain the same all year and the lack of a natural pass rush isn't fixed, I feel it'll draw more people to hopping on the defensive line and getting to work, as it really might be their best option. The new pass rush mechanic of tying everything to the right stick feels more intuitive, and you for sure can become the next Lawrence Taylor on the sticks. While learning how to master the proper pass rush moves, I've had fun burying poor offensive linemen into the dirt or just speed rushing right by them with different pass rushers. And it's clear that the increase in the pass rush effectiveness using linemen, opposed to other positions on the defense, can't be ignored.
Had 2 whole weeks to digest everything. I'll be fine. What can go wrong?
Madden 21 offers a variety of game modes for players. Some fun, some okay, and some flat out boring. Let's start with the latter. There's no secret what the biggest mode disappointment is in Madden 21. Obviously, I'm talking about franchise mode. Everyone knows that the mode largely went untouched. I mean, there's a reason why #FixMaddenFranchise became a thing in the first place that resulted in the higher-ups at EA being forced into issuing statements promising an upgrade to franchise mode this season and beyond. Madden 21's franchise is simply more of a mid-year patch than a full mode update in a new game. Sure, we get a nice pre-game show highlight reel when you get into a game, but the fact that this is basically just a copy and paste from last year with an updated user interface, at a time when franchise mode has been on the hot seat for years within the community, is a slap in the face to everyone who calls himself a fan. It's especially true with new modes popping up every year, and Madden's franchise mode all of a sudden forgetting what a definition of a rookie is? I can go on and on about the problems with franchise mode, but I value your time way much more than that. Now the new mode this year is The Yard, a 6-on-6 arcade-centric offering. Now, as a sim franchise guy, I'll admit I groaned when I first caught word of Superstar KO last year, and especially with The Yard in Madden 21. But honestly, I have to admit, The Yard is pretty fun. It takes me back to games like NFL Blitz on the PlayStation without, the over-the-top violent stuff. I'm also afraid to admit how much time I've actually spent customizing my character and making decisions like if I want my stomach to show or not. The cosmetic aspect of this mode is a huge win for players, though we would like to see it spread across the entire game and not just in this and face of the franchise. The wackiness of the gameplay in the mode is a nice break from the simulation style football Madden is supposed to be known for, but I feel that the biggest miss with The Yard, which can totally be corrected later on, is the fact that there aren't any announcers. How cool would a WWE style super enthusiastic announcer in this mode be? NHL's done it right in NHL 3s with their announcers, and Madden should too. The series has veered from being a simulation football game for a specific target to becoming a football game for everyone over the years. And The Yard is a great stepping stone in that direction, with a lot of untapped potential for the future. Aside from The Yard, the other mode that got all of the development love this year is Face of the Franchise. The game's story-based mode sees you start in high school and work your way to become an NFL legend. Whereas the cutscenes and story elements of the mode in Madden 20 ended after college, Face of the Franchise this year includes a little bit deeper story that expands into your time in the NFL, though it's not really all that fun once in the pros. There are different choices you can make throughout that'll shape your abilities, which should lead to more replay time should you find yourself interested in playing through it more than once. The problem is, the mode will play out the same no matter what you try and do. You'll be a highly recruited D1 player no matter what, and you'll find yourself being a highly touted prospect even if you are mediocre at best in college. The gameplay in the mode feels pretty much exactly the same as anywhere else in Madden. All aspects play the same, and I don't really feel any difference on the field between high school, college, and pros. There's just no difference in the ability of kids in high school versus the professionals making millions of dollars in the NFL. I get where EA's coming from with trying to make this their major single-player career mode, but it still just doesn't feel right. At times it's too campy, while other areas are just too boring. There's potential to do something with this mode, but Madden 21 just doesn't have that down yet. If anything, like the past Face of the Franchise and Longshot modes, this just feels like a different way to utilize the Frostbite engine for what it was for in the first place, as opposed to making a true career mode for single-player fans. Now, Ultimate Team is Ultimate Team. There's not really much else to say at this point other than enjoy spending your hard-earned money on cards. Oh, and Superstar KO is back as the exact same thing from Madden 20. Nothing more to see there.
Well, let's face it, the aches and pains haven't really set in yet, and both teams eyeing a really good start to get things going.
Madden 21's presentation is nothing special. The new in-game graphics like the score bug are incredibly clean and look the best it has in years. Aside from that, however, everything is just incredibly bland. We said last year that it's time to blow up the game's presentation and start over, and we still feel that way after playing Madden 21. Brandon Godden and Charles Davis remain as a commentary team with a number of the same lines you'll hear time and time again in your games. While I appreciate the work of both men, they just don't feel right as commentators in a video game. Some people just have it when it comes to getting the proper emotion conveyed, while others just can't quite get it right. Madden 21's broadcast crew falls into the latter category. The players, while they still look good for the most part, and at the end of a generation, there's not much more that can be done with the hardware available. but I would be remiss if not to mention all the visual bugs and glitches that Madden 21 presents. Now personally, I've been lucky as I haven't really experienced many, if actually any, of the major glitches that people have seen, but when you have things like missing field lines, players not rendering, players showing up in different uniforms, logos being out of place, players being shown that they're playing at different universities or they came from different colleges, there's an issue with your game's presentation that shows a lack of attention to detail from the team responsible for QAing all of those elements.
But seriously though, the past 2 years have really put things into perspective for me.
When you're a AAA game from one of, if not the largest publisher in the world, there are expectations from the community. They want a fun, deep experience that they're happy to come back to, especially when that experience comes from the only simulation NFL game on the market. Madden 21, for most players, isn't that. The gameplay is good in bursts, but has too many issues to be consistently enjoyable. The modes, well, they're bland overall, and the presentation is drier than desert sand. It makes money hand over fist thanks to Ultimate Team, but rather than focus on the modes and elements players want, things just get lost in the shuffle. Dedicated players are going to for sure still pick this game up no matter what, but it's tough to justify a $60 or more purchase on a game that feels too similar to what we've gotten the past 3+ years. For more on Madden 21 and sports gaming content daily, be sure to subscribe to Sports Gamers Online and hit that bell to be notified whenever a new video goes live, and visit our website at sportsgamersonline.com.